The eligibility criteria for Walmart Labs was 7.5 CGPA or CPI. BTech CSE, BTech Mathematics and Computing, and MTech CSE people were allowed to sit in the test and the interview. The recruitment process of Walmart Labs had an online test before the interview process. The online tests were held on HackerRank platform, and it consisted of a few objective questions and two online coding questions. The objective questions were from the core computer science background, which consisted of problems from data structure types like arrays and heaps, and few of, as I remember, from Tower of Hanoi problem. The recurrence relation of a Tower of Hanoi problem was asked. The coding questions, they consisted of a simple balancing parenthesis problem, the one, and the other one was the standard Josephus circle problem. So initially, if you want to, from my perspective, if you want to take the burden off from the test, so I would like to solve the coding questions first, because it consumes too much time, and if you are stuck at some objective question, it won't give you too much time at the end, right? So you may want to solve them first, and if you're not able to solve them, then maybe you can save 10-20 minutes to solve the objective questions at the last. The interview process of Walmart Labs consisted of three rounds of interviews. Two of them were technical coding, rounds, and one was the HR round. So the first technical round started with a brief introduction of myself, my academic activities, and so there are two possibilities. Either the interviewer will ask you to tell about yourself, the projects that you have done, and he'll select one of those projects and ask questions about that. Otherwise, the interviewer will be having something in mind, and he'll straight away ask those questions. So for me, it started with the questions from my side. So I said that I have done some projects and I have done some implementations in lab. So I said LRU cache implementation, and he started with that. So for LRU cache implementation, we discussed a bit about space optimization, the time optimization. What if we minimize the space complexity, and then we have to trade off our time complexity as well, right? So those are type of questions. Then the next thing he asked from the LRU cache, not exactly from the LRU cache. Then he asked about the OS calls, the Linux standard OS calls, and then he threw some question at me that he didn't mention any standard name of the algorithm. So the question was like that, that on a 2D plane there are many number of points, maybe infinite number of points, and you have to find out the points between range of x and y. So it seemed to me that like a line sweep algorithm. So if you're not sure about the question, or if you're not sure about what you're going to say, maybe you just intimate the interviewer that whatever I'm saying, please correct me if I'm wrong. So I started with the line sweep algorithm. I explained him the algorithm. Then he said, right, you are going correct on the path. So maybe then I forwarded my interview with explaining how to solve the problem. So it was about on a plane, what data structure do you use to find out the points on the range. So I said array will be sufficient. So we discussed about that for like 10 to 15 minutes. Then he threw one more question, that was merge sorting. Sorry, not merge sorting, but merging n arrays of different lengths. So we both had our different approaches to solve the problem. I said that I'll start sorting with heap, but he said that you can actually sort it with merge sort, right? So we continued discussing our approaches, and at the end, finally he asked me which approach is better. So I told that my approach is better, because you have to be confident about what you said. So that's it for the first round. So my second round of technical interview had two interviews in front of me. They started with my resume. They asked about my curriculum projects. So they asked about the speech recognition project that I have done in my curriculum. They asked the algorithms that the method I've used to approach the problem. Then they started with a very simple question. It seemed to me like a very simple question initially. So the problem was to find an element in an array of length n with minimum number of comparisons, right? So we do it very simply by while I is less than n, and if ai is equals to the constant that you are trying to find, and that's it. So it consists of, if you see it consists of two n comparisons. One in the while loop that goes on up to n, and the other one inside the loop, right? So I have to bring it down up to some constant plus n only. So initially it was 2 and I had to brought it down to n plus some constant. So it took me too much time, I mean not too much exactly, but it took me around 15 to 20 minutes to initially solve the problem. In between approaching the problem, I was a bit frustrated, but that is the key point, that you don't want to get frustrated and you don't want to give up. Right? They just want to see how you approach the problem and how you are determined to solve the problem, and they will give you plenty of time to approach the problem. Maybe in between they will help you a bit so that you keep the right track to solve the problem. So this approach is simple, that you keep the constant that you are trying to find, you keep it at the end. Let the while loop run, I++, no comparison in the while loop. Just keep an if statement inside the loop, if a is equals to n. So if the element is not in the array, so at the end it will find the last element which you have put in the array, and then it will automatically terminate. So you can at the end check in the main that whether it is the last index or of the array or not. So that is how you want to approach the question. The third question was the design problem that they have given me. So they have given me some design problem, like you have too many clients. You have you want to all the clients of the retail store has their contract with the retail store, right? So the clients sell the products of the retail store. They keep track of the profit that they want to give to the retail store and the time duration of the contract. So on this problem I had to design a database, and I had to with lesser number of complexity, because this is a big data problem and you don't want to give too much space to that problem, otherwise it will consume too much space. So I had to design the problem, and that's it. That was my second technical round. So my third round of interview started with an HR round. So it consisted of a basic set of HR questions that we generally listen from the HRs. So tell me about yourself and your academic activities, your extracurricular activities. Then they asked from me, like, if you want to ask some questions from us. So I generally ask about the projects that are happening at your office, and if there is any possibility of going to foreign or maybe foreign opportunities. So they answered those questions, and finally I was selected for the job, and I was really happy. I was really excited. The most useful things for me during the preparation was firstly the participating in as many as online contests as possible. So there are many platforms for you to do it, and participate in the short contest, because it gives you a real-time feel of how to prepare for the online test, because that is the most crucial part that happens before the interview process. And secondly, you don't want to prepare too many languages, as because it consumes too much time, and the interviewer is not looking for various programming languages. It just looks for the basic concepts that you should be aware of. So I kept C and C++. C because it is the basic of all programming language, and C++ because it's an object-oriented programming language. So you may want to prepare C++ or Java. That's up to you. Thirdly, the discussions within the group, within your friends, helped me a lot. Because it cleared my concepts often, and it does it in very few time, and it helps you memorize things easily. Apart from the academic activities, I indulged in extracurricular activities as well. So I was assistant general secretary of my placement cell, so which gave me a feeling of interacting with people, which kept the fear away as you go into the interview, and if you have too much fear, you're too much anxious about the interview. So that was not for me, and it keeps your communication skill as well. So not because English is preferred at interviews, but it gives a way of communicating your thoughts to the interviewer easily. So that's it for me.